The depth charges detonate 200 feet below the surface, sending geysers of white water erupting skyward as the destroyer Escort heels hard to port. Sonar contact lost. Again, the Japanese submarine has slipped beneath the thermal layer, vanishing into the Pacific depths like a ghost dissolving into darkness. On the bridge, the officer of the deck watches the spreading circles of disturbed water with grim familiarity. This is the third contact in 48 hours, the third submarine detected, tracked, and attacked. The third failure. Somewhere below, a Japanese submarine commander is already composing his contact report, preparing to transmit the position, course, and composition of American naval forces to Combined Fleet Headquarters. Every transmission brings Japanese defenders one step closer to readiness. Every escaped submarine makes the coming invasion more costly in American lives. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that subscribe button. I'm Jason, and here on WW2 with Jason, we dig into the forgotten weapons and desperate battles that shaped the war. Now, back to the Pacific. The problem beneath the waves. The mathematics of anti-submarine warfare in the Pacific presented American naval commanders with an almost impossible equation. Japanese submarines operating in the Central Pacific enjoyed advantages their German counterparts in the Atlantic could only dream of. Vast ocean expanses meant patrol lines could be positioned hundreds of miles from American bases. Tropical water conditions created complex thermal layers that bent and scattered sonar signals. Japanese submarine commanders, trained in a doctrine emphasizing reconnaissance over commerce raiding, excelled at the patient observation missions that made them so dangerous to Operation Forager. American destroyer escorts hunting these submarines faced a fundamental tactical problem that no amount of courage or seamanship could overcome. The standard depth charge attack required a surface vessel to pass directly over a submerged submarine, losing sonar contact at the critical moment when the submarine's position mattered most. During those final seconds of the attack run, the submarine could maneuver freely while the attacking ship steamed blindly forward, dropping charges based on where the target had been rather than where it was. Japanese submarine commanders learned this weakness quickly. The moment sonar pings intensified, not indicating an attacking ship closing for the kill, experienced captains ordered hard rudder and speed changes. By the time depth charges sank to their preset detonation depths, the submarine had moved hundreds of feet from the predicted position. The explosions accomplished nothing except announcing to every Japanese vessel within 50 miles that American anti-submarine forces were operating in the area. Ship crews experienced this frustration with mounting despair. Sonarmen tracked contacts for hours, maintaining precise plots of submarine movements, only to watch their careful work rendered meaningless in the final moments of attack. Depth charge crews labored in tropical heat, wrestling heavy charges into racks and K-guns, knowing the odds favored the enemy. Engine room personnel pushed aging machinery to maximum output during pursuit runs, understanding that mechanical failure meant a submarine escape. The physical and psychological toll accumulated across weeks of fruitless patrols. Improvised solutions emerged from the fleet itself. Some captains experimented with shallower depth charge settings, hoping to catch submarines before they could dive deep. The results proved catastrophic. Charges detonating too close to the surface damaged attacking ships, sometimes fatally. Other commanders tried coordinated attacks with multiple escorts, boxing submarines into kill zones. The tactic showed promise but required precise timing and communication that Pacific conditions frequently disrupted. Radio transmissions attracted Japanese attention. Visual signals failed in tropical squalls. The coordination that worked in Atlantic convoy battles proved maddeningly difficult to replicate across the Pacific's vast distances. The Hedgehog forward-throwing weapon offered theoretical advantages that practical experience struggled to confirm. Unlike depth charges dropped astern, Hedgehog projectiles launched ahead of the attacking ship, allowing sonar contact to be maintained throughout the approach. The weapon's contact-fused bombs detonated only on direct hits, eliminating the guesswork of preset depth settings. On paper, Hedgehog transformed anti-submarine warfare. In practice, the weapon demanded skills that Pacific crews were still developing. Hedgehog attacks required precise range estimation and careful approach angles. The 24 projectiles spread in an elliptical pattern roughly 40 yards across. A submarine maneuvering at 8 knots could exit that pattern in seconds. Crews trained in Atlantic conditions found Pacific thermal layers distorted their range calculations. Attacks that should have produced hits missed by margins that seemed impossibly small, yet proved absolutely fatal to success. After-action reports from early 1944 revealed a troubling pattern. Hedgehog attacks achieved contact on submarines at rates far below theoretical predictions. Convoy commodores watching these failures unfold faced impossible choices. Hunter-killer groups consumed fuel, ammunition, and crew endurance at rates that strained Pacific logistics. Every escort assigned to submarine hunting meant one fewer vessel protecting supply convoys or supporting amphibious operations. The calculus demanded results. But submarines detected had to become submarines destroyed, not submarines escaped to report another day. Yet the kill ratios remained stubbornly inadequate. The Japanese submarine picket line positioning revealed in intercepted communications represented exactly the threat American anti-submarine forces had failed to counter. Vice Admiral Takagi's submarines needed only to survive long enough to transmit contact reports. They didn't have to sink American ships. They didn't have to return to base. Their mission succeeded the moment radio operators tapped out position coordinates to combined fleet headquarters. Every submarine that escaped an American attack remained capable of completing that mission. Admiralty procurement decisions made years earlier now constrained tactical options. Destroyer escorts had been designed for mass production, not individual excellence. Shipyards across America turned out these vessels at rates that would have seemed impossible before the war. But speed of construction came with compromises. Propulsion systems optimized for reliability rather than performance limited pursuit speeds. Sensor suites reflected what could be manufactured quickly rather than what submarine hunting demanded. Weapons loadouts balanced Atlantic convoy defense requirements against Pacific offensive needs, satisfying neither completely. The fundamental engineering impossibility became clear as operational demands accumulated. Effective submarine hunting required speed to pursue contacts, yet fuel efficiency to maintain extended patrols. It demanded sensors capable of tracking targets through thermal layers, yet simple enough for hastily trained crews to operate. It needed weapons that could kill submarines without warning them first, yet reliable enough to function in tropical conditions that corroded mechanisms and degraded explosives. No existing combination of ship and weapon satisfied all requirements simultaneously. American submarines operating against Japanese shipping demonstrated what was possible when technology and tactics aligned. Fleet boats equipped with improved torpedoes achieved kill rates that devastated Japanese logistics. The contrast with surface anti-submarine warfare could not have been starker. Submarines hunting ships succeeded. Ships hunting submarines failed. The asymmetry threatened to undermine the entire Pacific offensive. Task Group 12.4 received orders reflecting both desperation and determination. Sweep the suspected picket line. Destroy submarines before they could report. Accept losses if necessary. The language of the operational orders carried implications that experienced officers understood clearly. Naval planners expected some escorts would not return. The mission mattered more than the ships assigned to execute it. Destroyer escorts had been built to be expendable. What those planners could not anticipate was how one particular escort would transform the mathematics of Pacific anti-submarine warfare. Among the mass-produced vessels assigned to Task Group 12.4, one ship carried a crew that had somehow mastered the impossible combination of skills that submarine hunting demanded. Their sonarmen read thermal layers with intuitive precision. Their approach calculations compensated for conditions that defeated other ships. Their weapons crews achieved timing that turned theoretical advantages into actual kills. Over 12 days in May 1944, this single destroyer escort would accomplish what entire task groups had failed to achieve. The submarine picket line that threatened Operation Forager would be systematically dismantled, one contact at a time. Japanese submarine commanders who had learned to exploit American weaknesses would discover that the rules had suddenly changed. The expendable escort that naval planners expected to sacrifice would instead rewrite the record books for anti-submarine warfare. But first, the crew had to find their targets in an ocean that seemed determined to hide them. Final word count, 1,527 words. The sailors of Task Group 12.4 regarded their newest assignment with the weary skepticism common to men who had already learned that the Pacific swallowed ships without discrimination. The destroyer escort sliding into formation looked like every other mass-produced hull churned out by American shipyards. Functional, Unimpressive, built to be expendable. Her gray paint was standard Navy issue, her silhouette identical to dozens of sister ships scattered across the fleet. Nothing about her suggested she would become the most successful submarine killer in naval history. Her designation was USS England, DE-635, a Buckley-class destroyer escort commissioned in December 1943 and named for Ensign John Charles England, who had died aboard USS Oklahoma during the Pearl Harbor attack. She displaced 1,740 tons fully loaded, stretched 306 feet in length, and could make 23 knots when her turbo-electric drive was pushed hard. Her armament included 3 3-inch/50 caliber guns, 3 21-inch torpedo tubes, and depth charge racks, standard equipment for convoy escort work. But her most important weapon sat forward of the bridge, an ungainly cluster of 24 spigot mortars arranged in a circular pattern. This was the Mark X Hedgehog anti-submarine projector, and it represented everything the Navy had learned about killing submarines since the war began. The Hedgehog's design philosophy accepted a brutal trade-off from the start. Unlike depth charges that detonated at preset depths, whether they hit anything or not, Hedgehog projectiles only exploded on contact. This meant no kill unless you scored a direct hit, but it also meant no explosion to disrupt sonar contact if you missed. A destroyer escort could fire pattern after pattern, maintaining continuous tracking, adjusting aim with each salvo until the mathematics of probability finally caught up with the submarine below. The weapon threw its 24 65-pound projectiles in an elliptical pattern, roughly 140 feet wide and 120 feet deep, landing approximately 200 yards ahead of the firing ship. Each projectile carried 35 pounds of Torpex explosive, enough to rupture a submarine's pressure hull on contact. The forward-throwing design meant the attacking ship never had to pass over the submarine's position, never lost sonar contact during the critical attack phase. England's crew had drilled relentlessly with this system during workup exercises, achieving the kind of coordination that transformed individual competence into collective lethality. Her sonar operators, fire control team, and weapons crews functioned as a single organism, each element anticipating the other's needs. When Task Group 12.4 received intelligence about a Japanese submarine picket line forming northwest of the Admiralty Islands in May 1944, England was ready. The Japanese had positioned 7 submarines in a scouting line to provide early warning of American fleet movements toward the Marianas. It was standard doctrine, submarines serving as the eyes of the combined fleet. What the Japanese could not anticipate was that their carefully positioned picket line would encounter a destroyer escort whose crew had perfected the art of submarine killing. On May 19, 1944, England's sonar operators detected a submerged contact. The approach followed textbook procedures, closing to optimal range, maintaining contact, computing the target's course and speed. The Hedgehog pattern arced forward and splashed into the Pacific. Seconds later, the characteristic double explosion of contact-detonated projectiles confirmed the kill. RO-106 died in the resulting blast, her pressure hull torn open by Torpex charges designed for exactly this purpose. 3 days later, England found RO-104 running submerged and repeated the performance. The Hedgehog pattern struck true, and another Japanese submarine joined the first on the ocean floor. Task Group commanders noted the second kill with interest, but attributed it to favorable circumstances. Then, RO-116 died on May 24th under England's Hedgehog salvos. RO-108 followed on May 26th. 4 submarines in 8 days, all killed by the same destroyer escort. The statistical improbability of this achievement began registering at command levels. Destroyer escorts were supposed to be adequate, not exceptional. They were designed to be built quickly and cheaply, crewed by reservists and draftees, assigned to the unglamorous work of protecting convoys, while fleet destroyers accompanied the carriers. Yet England was dismantling an entire submarine picket line with mechanical efficiency. On May 30th, England's sonar detected her 6th target, RO-105, the last surviving submarine of the original picket line. This time, Task Group commanders ordered other ships to make the attack, recognizing that England's crew deserved rest and that other vessels needed combat experience. USS George and USS Raby made multiple attack runs. All failed to achieve kills. The submarine escaped each pattern, evading destruction through skill or luck. Finally, England was released to finish what she had started. Her approach was precise, her Hedgehog pattern accurate. RO-105 became her 6th confirmed kill in 12 days. No other vessel in any navy would match this record during the entire war. The achievement validated everything the Navy had invested in destroyer escort construction and Hedgehog development. A mass-produced ship costing roughly $5 million, a fraction of a fleet destroyer's price, had proven more lethal than any purpose-built submarine hunter. England's success demonstrated that the combination of reliable sonar, forward-throwing weapons, and well-trained crews could transform even modest warships into submarine killers of extraordinary effectiveness. The limitations that critics had identified in the Hedgehog system, the requirement for direct hits, the smaller warhead compared to depth charges, proved irrelevant when crews achieved the coordination England's men had mastered. The weapon's advantages overwhelmed its theoretical disadvantages in the hands of operators who understood how to exploit them. England continued Pacific operations after her 12-day rampage, participating in the Philippines campaign and Okinawa operations. On May 9, 1945, a kamikaze aircraft struck her while she served on radar picket duty off Okinawa. The impact killed 37 sailors and wounded 25 more, leaving the ship severely damaged but still afloat. She survived to see the war's end, a testament to the rugged construction that characterized American destroyer escorts. Decommissioned in October 1945, England was sold for scrapping in 1946, the same fate that awaited most of her mass-produced sisters. Her hull went to the breakers, but her record remained unbroken. The Navy honored her achievement by naming a subsequent destroyer escort USS England, ensuring that Admiral King's promise would be kept. Modern naval historians regard England's May 1944 patrol as the most concentrated anti-submarine success in naval warfare history. 6 confirmed kills in 12 days represented a statistical anomaly that no amount of favorable circumstance could fully explain. The achievement required exceptional sonar operators, flawless fire control coordination, aggressive ship handling, and the kind of institutional confidence that allowed a crew to trust their weapons and their training absolutely. The disposable destroyer escort had answered the submarine threat with brutal efficiency, proving that American industrial capacity and tactical innovation could produce results that defied conventional expectations.